Approximately 5 years ago, I was doing exactly what you are doing today. I was tuning into summits to find out how I could support my body with a recent diagnosis of subclinical Hashimoto's and fatty liver. Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition where the antibodies are attacking the thyroid. The subclinical bit means that the markers for the thyroid health, TSH, 3T3 and 3T4, were normal. This is despite the fact that I was suffering from hair loss, bloating that looked like I was 3 to 6 months pregnant. I couldn't move my post-baby weight. I had fatigue, apathy, no energy. I had brain fog, and my husband was actually worried that I had early onset dementia. Because my blood results were normal, there was nothing my GP could do to assist me. So that's when I dived into the world of functional nutrition and AIP. The results were so profound that I actually went to retrain so I could support others on their journey. And it's with great pleasure today that I'm going to talk to you about some of the common AIP DIY pitfalls that myself and other coaches see when clients come to them and commonly pop up in Facebook groups. So today I hope you will find ways to avoid the common mistakes and pitfalls while you're on your own wellness journey. So first of all, let's take a look at the acronym AIP. Some people think it is AIP Paleo. This puts a very food-centric look on wellness. I like to think of it as the AIP, or the Autoimmune Protocol. Protocol means it encompasses more than food. It looks at our lifestyle factors. And this is really often overlooked by people, the importance and the impact that lifestyle can have on our overall health and wellness. This more holistic approach to wellness is not specific to AIP or the protocol or peculiar to that. It was actually a fundamental learning in my integrative nutrition training where they had something called primary foods and secondary foods. The secondary foods are actually the food we ate, where the primary foods were the things that gave us energy and weren't served on a plate. So these are the things like our relationships, our hobbies, our connection with nature, career, physical activity and spirituality. And the creator of the course, Joshua Rosenthal, used to say, you can eat all the broccoli and the brown rice in the world, but if you're feeling isolated and lonely, you're not going to be living life at its full capacity. So if you're sitting there now and thinking that you're focusing all on the food, I'd like you to start expanding your mind and thinking about those other aspects of your life. And as a functional nutrition and lifestyle practitioner trained on how to use a nutritional matrix, which looks at how somebody got to their current state of wellness or unwellness, what the triggering points are, what they know to be true for their body, the symptoms that are happening, which is sort of the middle part of that matrix that you can see. And then there are the 5 health pillars that I work with clients on, which is the sleep, the relaxation, exercise, movement, nutrition and hydration, stress and resilience, and also relationships and networks. And as you can see, 4 of the 5 health pillars are not food-based. While food probably takes up a bigger proportion of that, it is still only 1 out of the 4 components that we need to look at on our journey. And this is why AIP in terms of protocol resonates so closely with me. Today I am going to be primarily focusing on a lot of the pitfalls that happen in terms of the way we eat and how we eat. But I would also just like to draw your attention to a couple of the lifestyle factors. One of them is around social isolation. A lot of people, when they start going on a therapeutic diet and they have restricted eating, often withdraw themselves from something that's very crucial to us, which is relationships and connections. Part of that is sometimes because the people that are closest to us do not understand what or how or why we're embarking on this journey. There are some fantastic lectures in the summit which are going to help you deal with these topics, including eating out and AIP while travelling. So do listen into them. We do want you to have the biggest, best life that you can be living, not a restrictive one. The other area I'd like to draw your attention to is stress management. Stress is huge. It's an inevitable part of life, but there are some areas which we need to be able to manage better and other areas we can't manage, but we need to have daily techniques that help us to breathe, if you like, through these moments. One of the quotes that I really loved from the AIP coaching course was this one. It says, stress management is like taking out the trash or doing the laundry. It is something we need to do on a consistent basis, or we'll end up with a dirty, smelly house. And it is often these daily things when we're busy that are first to go. I'll speak for myself here, but actually often some of the most critical things to do. And during the summit, please listen out. There's some wonderful lectures on how to deal with this on a daily basis. Now, onto some of the food-related pitfalls that happen with AIP. The first thing is people often say, I'm eating AIP. Yes, they may be eating AIP compliant foods, but they're not actually eating AIP protocol, which is quite different. A lot of this happens because people are wanting to translate the way they're eating to an exact match by eating AIP. A lot of you are probably very familiar with food pyramids. Well, this here is an AIP food pyramid. As you can see, the base of it is actually vegetables. Okay, I actually like to think of AIP as a plant-powered eating protocol. The word paleo often think of half their plate or the majority of their diet being red meat, and that is furthest from the truth that we can probably get. Our next tier up is actually our offals, which are an incredibly nutrient-dense food, along with our seafood, our broth, our fish, and our collagen. Just a wee note on collagen: if you do suffer from depression, just do watch your symptoms if you're including that in the diet, and have a look at some of the wonderful work of Trudy Scott. Next, we have our red meats and our chicken and our poultry. Again, when people often switch over to an AIP style of eating, they make a protein or poultry their predominant source of protein. What I'd like to do is caution you here a little bit. Poultry tends to be very high in the inflammatory omega-6 fats. And we do need omega-6 fats in our diet, but they do need to be balanced with our omega-3s. So if you've got a lot of chicken or poultry in your diet, do make sure you're having a lot of seafood to get your omega-3s. Otherwise, do have a look at some supplementation to try and help balance out that inflammation. Next up, we've got our healthy fats and oils, and then our fruit. It does tend to take a smaller part of our diet because of the fructose content and its instability on the blood sugar for some people. As a general rule of thumb, people can have between 2 and 4 serves. You're aiming, if you want to get technical, between about 10 and 20 grams of fructose a day. Some people can tolerate up to about 40. So if you think of your more tropical fruits, they can have a higher fructose content than something like your berries and your green apples and your citrus, which you can have a bit more of. Right at the top of the pyramid is our baked goods. And this is often where people go wrong, is they're wanting baked goods to be at the base of the pyramid, to fill that gap of where the breads, the pastas, the muffins and things were. So it really is quite a shift in mindset and thinking on what foods are going to make up the biggest proportion of your plate. Just another note on the food triangle before I move off is that the other thing with baked goods, while it's good to have them and have them as part of your diet, they're actually filling you up and giving you less capacity to eat the more nutrient dense foods. Another pitfall that we often see people falling into is repetition, getting bored of eating the same 3 foods, and I say 3 loosely. But this can happen for a number of reasons. Is that we're all creatures of habit, so it's very easy to go to the supermarket and buy carrots, sweet potato, broccoli and cauliflower every single week. What I would like you to encourage you to do is have a look around and see what's in season and pick up a wider range of fruit and vegetables. Even if you can only eat 2 fruit a day, just don't make it an apple and a banana for the entire week. One other way to try and break these habits is to get out to your roadside markets and also your farmers markets. You'll find a whole range of fruits and vegetables there which you won't find in your local supermarket. Another good trick is actually to change your supermarkets occasionally, because fruit and vegetables which are even grown in different soils can offer you different nutritional benefits. Another reason why people end up on a very restricted number of foods that they can eat is they keep eliminating foods because they think they're the cause of the reactions or flares or symptoms in their body. Often these reactions are not to do with the food, they're due to an underlying root cause which hasn't been diagnosed. So if you find that you're restricting your food intake or food choices down and down, please seek the help of either a AIP coach, an integrative GP or a functional doctor, or somebody who can help you have a look and see what else is going on your body. Okay, being harder and tougher and stricter on yourself is not going to move you forward on your wellness journey. If you're looking for inspiration, do have a look at some of the tables that are around and information that's around, or even Google what's seasonal now. Have a look at the list and think, oh my gosh, I haven't had beetroot for a while, is it in season? And then put that on your list to get next time. The other way to add variety to your way that you're eating, take beetroot for example, you can have it roasted, you can have it pickled, or you can even have it in raw salads. So change up the way that you're actually consuming some of your favourite vegetables as well. And the next pitfall I'd like to talk about is AIP being an elimination diet, and that's all it is. Yes, it is an elimination diet where we take out foods that are known to be inflammatory to the body or the gut. But it's more than that. It is also a way to put nutrients dense foods into our diet. So it's also about what we add. And that is why you see foods like offal and all those vegetables as being part of the diet. I also want to remind people that AIP is just not about elimination and restriction. That is only the first stage of this therapeutic way of eating. When I'm working with my clients, I like them to think about their meal planning and making sure they're crossing off all of the food areas when they're looking at what to eat for the week. This is to ensure that they get all the nutrients that their body needs. These have been well thought out, and if you cannot meet some of these recommendations, do work with a coach on how you can potentially include these in your diet, or if need be, look at ways to supplement them if it's an area that you really cannot include. In terms of structuring what your dinner plate should look like, and for that matter your breakfast plate, because you'll find you're probably going to start including vegetables in your breakfast just to get that 8 to 10 cups of veggies a day. This is a general rule of thumb of where I get my clients to start. Half a plate of non-starchy vegetables, a quarter of their plate of protein, which is generally about the size of the palm of your hand, and a quarter of a plate of starchy vegetables, including some healthy fats and oils. And as you can see around the side, I've also included a couple of the lifestyle factors: rest and digest and self-care. If we're in flight and fight mode, in other words we're ready to run or be on the move, our body is not sending the right signals and communications to digest. So if we're investing all of this energy into preparing and eating the correct foods, we want our body to be in a state that is actually going to absorb and utilize the foods and the nutrients that we are giving it. I'd just like to touch on protein first here. I did briefly touch on it in the pyramid, and saying often people get very focused on including primary poultry here. But also remember to include your red meats like your lamb and your beef, and depending on where in the world you are, like down here in Australia it could be kangaroo. Other people have access to things like bison in the States, and like India and things, eating goat is common practice. So do have a look at what's common and available to you in the country that you're living in, and include the broadest range as you possibly can. Starchy vegetables or carbohydrates. This is a little bit of what I call a Goldilocks ingredient, if you like, of our diet. It is about working out what is just right for you. Depending on what your energy outputs are, whether you're a breastfeeding mama, the amount of starchy vegetables you need may vary a little bit. It is really important to remember though that AIP is not a no or a low carbohydrate diet. Particularly with some of the autoimmune conditions, and Hashimoto's as being one of them, if you go too low on your carbohydrates, the body will actually think that you're going into starvation mode, and it will stop moving your T4 to the active form of T3 and move it out to reverse T3. This is only one of the reasons that can happen. But if you're suddenly finding that you've embarked on the AIP protocol and your reverse T3 has gone up, I often get clients to have a look at how much carbohydrates they're consuming and is it enough for their needs. Another pitfall that when people are embarking on AIP is focusing on snacks rather than good sized meals. The amount of snacking that you do during the day is going to be a little bit dependent on you and your own individual needs. If you've got issues with blood sugar, you are going to want to have some food probably every 2 to 3 hours throughout the day. And when you're having a snack, I want you to still think of it as a mini meal. In other words, does it have fat, fibre and protein in it? Okay. Ideally, we do actually want to be getting to 2 or 3 main meals a day and having quite a sizable gap between them. The aim of this, and the research is showing that our microbiome and our digestion actually needs to have a rest to work optimally. One of the best things you can do for yourself is to keep things simple, and meat and 3 or 4 veg, while it may seem boring, is actually one of the simplest and quickest ways that you can get the nutrients into your body. And as your body gets more energy and the fatigue reduces, then you can look at exploring a greater variety of recipes. If you do have some favourites and they are quite time consuming, do cook them in bulk and pop them in the freezer, and so then you've got them available when life also goes wrong, those hiccups happen and you run out of time. Which brings me on to my next AIP pitfall, and that is when people stress chronically over an intentional and an accidental consumption of a non-AIP food or beverage. Please, 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 the stress that you probably create in your body and the chemical storm is probably more damaging to your gut than what the accidental consumption was. No, it's not ideal, and what I like to tell my clients is life is up and down. Life's never going to be perfect. There's very few people who probably get through the AIP elimination phase perfectly. So don't be hard on yourself. I teach people to treat it as a learning experience. It's not a failure, and I love it when my kids came home and told me that fail means it's a first attempt in learning. Treat it as exactly that. Look at it. Why did it happen? Was I not prepared enough? What am I going to do about it next time? The other thing is to listen to your body. Did that accidental consumption cause a major flare? Or did my body actually cope with it okay? AIP is actually designed to be a 30 to 90 day elimination phase. And then you're meant to start on your reintroductions. There's no gold stars or medals for staying on AIP elimination phase for longer than that. In fact, we want you to get exploring and get a diverse range of foods back into your diet. Ideally start with the introduction stage 1 there, but for example, if you are pretty sure there's a food in another group that you're actually missing and you want to start there, do try it. Just listen to your body, and if you get a setback, just go back to your elimination phase, sort your body out and start again. If you are having a lot of problems in your stage 1 reintroductions, and either you can't reintroduce or you seem to be reacting with any, staying in the elimination phase longer and longer is not going to help you. Again, it's information for your body. Do seek out the help of a coach or an integrative practitioner, or who will help you look for root cause and dive deeper into what is happening. Another reason why people can stay in the elimination phase too long as well is that they get too scared to move on. They've had wonderful results in the elimination phase. They are feeling the best they have felt in weeks, months, and sometimes years, and they're worried that by introducing something that are going to upset this newfound wellness. Please do reach out if you've found yourself in this stage, and do start with something in stage 1 or a food that you know your body is most likely not going to react to. Likewise, if you're in the elimination phase and you're not seeing a clearing of symptoms, please do seek help. It is information that your body has something else going on. Another thing that can sometimes happen, and it's not often, but people actually embark on AIP and they get worse. Sometimes this is a temporary little flux that happens as the body actually detoxes, and sometimes it's called the AIP flu. However, other people, that stage just does not disappear. Again, this is information. Our body is trying to communicate to us. And with AIP, we often increase food groups, and particularly our fruits and our vegetables, which then make our bodies more vulnerable, or they actually show up an issue that was present before, but because we're consuming something maybe like oxalates or silates in a higher number, that our body has actually identified an issue. Again, please work with somebody who can review the way that you're eating and try and shed some light on this for you. Last but not least, waiting and waiting to get started. Waiting for things to be perfect. Life's not perfect, and it is never going to be a perfect time to start. Okay? Just start. Even if you don't start in the ideal way, just transition yourself. Do what you can and what you can find at a time. Change out one food group. Change out a snack. Change out a meal. Just start. Some people don't start because they feel they can't afford the organic or the grass-fed or whatever. That's also another myth. Okay? In our area of work, we talk about good, better, and best. Okay, so a carrot that is conventionally grown is still better than anything that you're going to get in a package with ingredients that you can't pronounce. Okay, and then obviously our best is our organic, or probably even I think the best is grown in our garden, that we know is organic practices, we know what has truly gone in, and we can get it fresh from the garden and straight onto the plate. So if you're thinking that you can't afford the top line meat and veg, don't let it stop you. Just start eating them. The other side of people not starting is they do not want to give up the cheese or the chocolate or the coffee or the wine. Again, don't let that stop you. There's so many other things that you can change. And then if you feel that you still need to drop those things out, you're not getting the results that you want, do drop them out then. For me, coffee was my one. And there was an emotional component around that, as well as the actual physical having coffee. And on a side note, coffee's not dropped out because of the caffeine, it's actually dropped out because it's a seed. So just to summarize, if you're going to tackle AIP DIY, ensure you truly understand the protocol, not just the way that you're going to eat, but also the lifestyle factors that you need to modify or take into consideration in your wellness journey. And I do use the word journey because life is going to continually change. What your body needs is going to continually change. And also, what your body can tolerate is also going to continually change. And you'll also get more familiar with your triggers. For example, for me, I know stress is a trigger. So when I'm eating So when I'm stressed, I actually do go back to eating a lot more elimination compliant foods and drop out some of my reintroductions. I just know then that my body will cope with what's coming up a lot better. I also have a review of a number of the resources on my website. Some people are looking for a real scientific explanation, through to those who are just wanting a more generalized guide. Again, keep it simple. Yeah, it may be a bit boring for 30 to 90 days, but keep it simple and just give your body the basics of what it needs. And also remember, AIP is not just a diet, it is a lifestyle change. It is something that is going to give you good health and wellness into the future. So whether you're embarking on your AIP journey with a coach or you're doing it yourself, I wish you the best and every success.